Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to talk of a very important subject, that is the right to self-defense. I am Pavanji Taluwalia, the moderator for for this session, and I'm also the coordinator for all NISSMAT activities. With me today, I have Captain Joshi, uh, who is an expert in martial arts as well as in self-defense, generally known as Joe Joshi. Jaipreet Joshi is his full name. He's a St. Stephen's College graduate, but he chose to join the Indian Army in the year of 1992, and he served the army for 5 years. Thereafter, he served several multinational organizations, and in the year 2009, after the Mumbai attack, he formed a management consultancy company called Functional and Intense Tactical Combat. For 14 years, he's trained people in the art of self-defense. He's trained over 3 lakh persons and has also been a part of the initial army setup of the army martial arts routine called Amar, and he's been its initial instructor. In India, citizens possess the legal right of self-defense, allowing them to protect themselves, their property, and others from imminent harm or unlawful aggression. This right is enshrined in the Indian Penal Code. You have the right of private defense. You have the right to protect yourself if you are in imminent danger. You are expected to provide a proportionate response, which means your response should not be larger than the threat that you envisage. You also have the right to protect others if you feel that they are in danger. You can safeguard your property. And then once the threat is over, you need to respond and tell the police and so on and so forth. However, we have with us Captain Joshi, who's an expert on this subject. Captain Joshi, may I begin by asking you, uh,
Yes, sir.
and just introduce yourself and provide a brief overview of your background and expertise in the area of self-defense.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for this invite, sir. You've already spoken very high, sir. I would just like to add a few more things here that I worked in the corporate for almost 13 years after I quit the army. Army was my first love, and I really enjoyed my tenure in the army. But I somehow felt that I'm not able to do things which were very close to my heart the way I wanted to do. And probably I think that's the reason I decided to venture out. I stayed in the corporate also for 13 years. I was heading security, and then from security I moved on to HR profile, handling 18,000 odd employees, 80, pan India. But then that was also not the end of it, because I somehow felt that there is something bigger which I must do in life, and there was a calling. And training and felicitation was one thing which I was always interested in. And I think, unfortunately, the Mumbai carnage happened. And when I read about it and I studied what happened, so it was very unfortunate that just 10 men and 176 lives were lost. And the whole country was at a ransom for good 1 week. And like everything was at a standstill. So I thought that if people knew little bit, for example, how to seal themselves in room, or how to maybe disarm somebody, maybe instead of 176, maybe 80 lives were lost. Even if we could save one life, I think that would have been a very big thing. So I think from that perspective and that thought process, this company Fitcom was launched. And when I started, it was a very, very difficult state for me, because the corporates would say that why do we need self-defense? Self-defense ka kuch tha hi nahi us time, matlab, in their training charter, there was nothing like that. And security agencies, they were in their own sort of realm of things, and self-defense was also not considered part of their thing. तब तक तो ये पसार भी नहीं आया था. हमने तो बना दिया था when I was in Hero Honda. पसार एक्ट नहीं आया था, but we already had a structured program कि कैसे security को train करना चाहिए. हमने बना दिया था. पसार तो बाद में regularize हुआ है. But this is how the company was formed, and I started when I started promoting what I did, I told them what I do is only going to increase your productivity. So my chief mentors were not the HR heads, but the owners of the company, the CEOs, because only they could take a call. And I would tell them that if your employee is confident, if your employee feels free, if your employee feels confident about his own life and being in the streets or being in the office at odd hours, whatever time and whatever I'm sorry, whatever type of pressure, work pressure, any sort of pressure, I think the productivity goes up. So all that combined, and it became something which people started liking. And by the grace of God, today it has become a mandate. As per the Passar Act, the as per the Shop and Establishment Act, it has become now a mandate to have at least 1 day of self-defense training for ladies. So
I think
a
it's
lot
an
of
important idea because especially at night, especially the girls who do the night shift or are being
yes,
escorted back in the middle of the night, I think their confidence would be tremendous if they know how to protect themselves.
absolutely. So also there are the various things which can help them, feel more confident and be able to deliver what they're supposed to. So that is how this thing has come a long way, and there's no looking back, sir.
Tell me something, how would you define self-defense?
Self-defense is very, very primal. It's very primal, and it's a basic life skill which everybody needs to know. Before I come to what is self-defense, I'll tell you a little bit of my qualification in martial arts. So I come from the army, where you are a veteran too, sir, and you know that the type of martial arts training which we have in the, not now, but at some point in time, then it was very basic and very, very rudimentary. And it was basically derived from the British special
SAS.
unarmed combat system. Yes, the unarmed combat system, the USC system of the British Army. That is what we followed for quite some time. Now I went to Israel twice. I have been trained with the IDF. I did my instructor course there. So there is something called Krav Maga, which is an Israeli special forces martial arts system, and Kapap. Thereafter, I went to Israel. Then after I went to Germany, and I trained in RBSD. RBSD is reality-based self-defense by somebody called Mr. Jim Wagner, who's also from the American police department, and he teaches that. So I did my instructor course there. So having gone across various countries, and I went to Singapore, I did underwater knife fighting course with the Singapore Marine Corps. So it gave me a perspective into what are the type of things which people all over do to stay safe and to keep others safe. Now, coming back to your question, what is self-defense? So self-defense is, as I said, it is very, very basic requirement. And self-defense is like uh, staying protected. I don't call it self-defense though. I call it self-preservation, because self-defense is reactive. Self-preservation is proactive. That I stay in a state of system wherein I'm safe, and it is difficult for somebody to reach me and harm me. So it becomes more like a state of preparedness rather than being being reactive. It is also called combat. It's like counter and motion before attack time, which means before somebody attacks you, you are able to counter that. So rather than just calling it self-defense, I have over a period of time started calling it self-preservation.
And that's a very good thing because you see, besides knowing the art of how to protect yourself, you need to be actually able to think as to how to protect yourself. Because if you can
Yes,
avoid an incident, I think that's better than being reactive to that incident. So I
absolutely,
think
sir.
excellent point. Now, why is self-defense knowledge and training important for individuals in today's world? Especially, when you have so many other ways of protecting yourself in terms of carrying what are these things? The ones that sort
Uh,
of hurt the eyes and you
Pepper spray and all.
spray and all these things. Now,
Yeah.
what is more important to have these gadgetry with you to protect yourself, or be able to sort of protect yourself physically from a person.
So what I'm saying is that this is primarily two things, which is flight versus fight. Either we get out of that situation the moment we get a chance, or the second thing is that we have to fight it if there is no other option. For example, a car trailing us or somebody following us, or we're getting into our car into the parking, and then there is somebody started who starts walking behind us. So we have to be situationally aware. We should know who's around us. So that is the first aspect, that we are aware. The second thing after that is that we confront if the need be. Now, confrontation does not mean that I get into a fight. Confrontation is that, all right, can I help you? Are you following me? Or do you need something? Or you go before me, I'll wait, or whatever. So we are not getting into a confrontation, as the word says, confrontation, but then addressing the situation. That is the second part. Then the third thing is that a lot of people talk about various gadgetry, as you said. Like that could be, for example, various apps are there, then there are pepper sprays, and then there are collapsible batons and a lot of other things, tasers and all. But from country to country, the rules vary. And in some certain countries, like in Singapore, you're not permitted to carry a knife. In India, you can, but in certain places, you cannot. Tasers may not be permitted, at least in India, they are not legally permitted. Only the law enforcement agencies can. So we have very limited scope of things which we can carry. But even if we can carry that, what is important is how to use it. So for instance, this is a pen. This is a tactical pen. Now we can tell somebody that you can use a pen to save yourself, to protect yourself, just in case of a problem. If you have to stop a threat from trying to mitigate you. But unless and until the person knows how to grip the pen and what are the vital points to strike, how to control, what are the various angles, it'll be of no use. Then it is of it's like the man behind the weapon, as is the adage in the forge or in the army. That is the man behind the weapon, which is more important than the weapon itself. Weapon is important, of course, but the man or the woman or the person behind is important. So gadgets are important, but how to use them, how to apply them, or rather, in tactical terminology, we say how to deploy them. That's more important, and I think we need to understand. So I feel that, for example, I'll give you another example, sir. Like I when I do corporate workshops, a lot of ladies say, "Yes, I have a pepper spray." I ask them one question: what is the name of your pepper spray, or what is the brand of the pepper spray? Now, this is how she does. Like you won't know. And what is the perfume you're wearing? She'll say, "Oh, this is whatever." So I tell, see, the reason is because you're more bothered and concerned about the perfume you're wearing. You look at it, you have those testers, and you try, and then you spend a lot of money and you buy. But this poor thing, which can save your life, which costs $300 to $400, lying in your bag, somebody gifted you and just kept it. You didn't even bother to even try it once. Now, till such time you try it, you will not understand its effectiveness. Now, second question I asked them, okay, now you have a pepper spray. Now somebody is trying to kidnap you in a cab. You're going in a cab. This cabbie is not going to the place where you want him to go. He's going elsewhere. Now, how do you stop him? Oh, I have a pepper spray. So what do you do? I'll spray. Can you use a pepper spray inside a cab? You cannot, because it's also going to affect you. So if you cannot open the pepper spray, might as well you hit the entire the casing, maybe in his eyes or in his nose. That is going to make more impact. So rather than using that pepper spray as a spray, you use it as an impact weapon. So that understanding and the conceptual visualization has to come before somebody starts actually utilizing the gadgets.
Then tell me something. Putting the idea of or the knowledge of self-defense into a person, it has to be your starting point. How do you go
Yes, sir.
about it? How do you go about it?
So I have to create a need, sir. I have to create a need. So I'll give you another example. Like when I do sessions, when I do corporate sessions or institutional sessions, I ask somebody to come. So I'll put the knife on the neck. So like I say I don't call it a knife. I call it a EDC. This is an EDC. It's an everyday carry. So I put the knife. It's a train. This is not a training knife, but that's a training knife. So I excuse me. I have a back throat. So I put the knife on their throat and tell them, okay, now what do you do? They say, I'll do this. And I say, I'll do this. What's stopping me when you push my hand away? What stops me from cutting your face or elsewhere? Then I tell them the concept. A knife can only cut when it can move. If a knife cannot move, it cannot cut. So if I keep the knife here, your response should be to grab my hand. Now, even if the knife is touching and it is not able to move, it can make small scratches, but will not be able to kill you or cut you deep. So these sort of concept, then they understand, oh, it makes sense. For example, carrying a pepper spray and not knowing how to use it. So then people try and, know more. Okay, now what is to be done? And if a thing like that happens or the hypothetical situations, then they start seeking answers to that. So need creation is not so difficult actually, but it depends from geography to geography, sir. I have delivered programs all over the country, also outside the country. Here in our country, unfortunately, what I've seen in the NCR especially, where the people are more aware, as we say so. I was doing a workshop. I'll not name the company because I just did the workshop yesterday. I asked them, do you know what happened in Ujjain on 25th? Nobody knew. I said, that is unfortunate. And that's the reason why things like this is happening. A 12-year-old girl was waylaid and then raped, and nobody helped.
And nobody helped. That was the biggest thing.
That's the biggest thing. Nobody helped. A small little girl, she was crying for help, and nobody came forward to help her. So we feel that we are cocooned. I, me, myself, this is my place, this is my office, this is me. I am VP, TP, AP, JP, whatever president, and I am so and so. They're not bothered about what is happening around them. So I think this is unfortunate. Till such time we know what is happening around us, we'll not be able to extend ourselves and be able to know as to also what we need to do.
What are the areas where people are most threatened? Let's say you're working in an office environment. Which are the places where you would be most threatened, and how do you protect yourself from each of those situational places where you can be threatened?
So, sir, there are phases. Like during the COVID times, it was like more about house attacks, like because people were confined to their homes, a lot of things were happening there. Now, and even before this, travel is one area which is very, very unsafe, and especially senior executives who are traveling overseas, who are traveling to distant locations, and who have to travel at odd hours. So that is one concern because travel is brings a lot of associated risks with it. The second, what I feel is the type of risk is the idea of exploration these days, because a lot of people drive to various locations these days. Earlier, people would go in like a community, but now there are a lot of individual, like one family gets inside a car and they want to travel. Again, not an office travel, but a personal travel. So two genres of travel, that is official travel, personal travel. I think these are the big concern areas. Now, this could be metros, this could be train. We know what happened in a train in UP, wherein a cop, a lady cop, she was manhandled and pushed under the seat of a train. She overslept and then she was nothing came out for whatever reasons. We're not getting politically sort of inclined as to what happened, but something happened and it was wrong. It should not happen, and that too somebody in the uniform. So that is one gray area, and I think and attacks and harms happen almost everywhere. And these days, another thing is that we have opened up to an extent that people have started coming to our homes in the forms of delivery boys, the Zomatos, and whatever. And um, there's so many these delivery systems, Swiggy's and all. So we don't know who the person is or if he's actually a delivery person or not. There is no identification. There are no I cards or whatever they're wearing. So it becomes very, very difficult. So there are a lot of things that we need to understand, and we need to stay prepared. I'm not saying be hyper, but all I'm saying is that we need to be careful about the way the world is opened up. So it has brought its challenges.
Absolutely, because security, you got to protect yourself also. You cannot be dependent on somebody else to keep protecting you all the while. You
Yeah.
got to know as to how to protect yourself, and situationally, you got to be aware as to uh, whom you're talking to, whom you open the door to, and how do you open the door to, how much to open, how much not to open, whether you have a latch or you have a chain attached. I think these are small things that and have a little peep eye through which you can sort of see as to who's come, who's not come. These are basic
Absolutely.
things. These are basic things which we used to do in the past, but then somewhere down the line, I think we've forgotten in between, and we got to go back to basics again before we do anything. What are the legal aspects of self-defense? When you protect yourself, if the other you're protecting yourself from gets harmed. Uh, how does the police take it? And just can you tell us something about the legality of self-defense?
So my understanding is that if a person A kills somebody, he gets a Veer Chakra. A person B kills somebody, he gets a noose around his neck. A person C kills somebody, he gets life imprisonment. So our law has various permutations, combinations. The environment, what it was at that point in time, wherein a crime was committed, or whatever. There are a lot of things which define it. But in a nutshell, uh, the Constitution provides us the right. We even have the right to possess a weapon. The Constitution provides that. But over a period of time, certain laws have been sort of modified, and certain laws have been uh, also got ignored. But when we talk of the right to self-defense, there is a provision. We can protect ourselves. But after the Nirbhaya incident has happened in 2011, 2012, there was a judgment in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has clearly said that in a bid to protect yourself, even if you kill somebody, it is all right. That is the ruling of the court. So it gives us some leeway that now, if somebody has pulled out a knife or somebody has taken out a firearm and he's pointing at me, now what is the use of adequate or proportionate force? And what do? I slap him and ask him to put the gun down. Now, I have to eliminate him before he eliminates me. So this depends on how honestly and how effectively and how truthfully we are able to tell the judiciary that I did it in my right to save myself. And I think laws are there, but then how we use them to our most honest um, um, side is, I think, what is more important. Because people are very afraid of using force. They feel agar isko aise kuch kahe mar gaya to kya. So things like that happen. What if the person dies? What if I try and use force? Yeah,
Sometimes,
and then you.
let's say, you have a security guard, an armed security guard, and he fires, and somebody dies, and he was actually trying to protect you. The security guard can be in shit for a very long time.
So it is. Here, I would like to say that the similar question was asked from me about I think 3 4 days ago. We were having a meeting with the security agency, and this is exactly what they asked. That what then? I said there are two things. One, the management has to stand strong with the guard and not leave him and not ask him, you go and you file your own FIR. That's the one thing. So we have to hold, and we have to be there for him. That is one thing, because unless and until there is some sort of support, he'll succumb. That is one thing. And the second thing is that we have to bring it in the right light. And I think the judiciary, we have very good judges who understand the situation. It has to be told to them that this is how it was, and this is what was supposed to be done, and this is what he did. It was not a vendetta killing or something like that. So I think as long as that is done, I feel that the right to say, and a lot of the instances are there where people have, in a bid to defend themselves, have fatally injured, if not killed, then fatally injured the accused or those who tried to harm them. the guilties. And I think that's a positive trend.
You tell me something. You trained so many people, and before we started, we did talk of the fact that self-defense training empowers individuals and boosts their confidence in daily life. Can you give us some example of some of the girls or the boys that you trained, and because of the training, they've become sort of so self-empowered that their confidence has gone up, and even the productivity in their office probably has gone up.
Yes, I've got various testimonies, sir, and which is I think a bigger reward for me more than anything else. So I can quote the name of the organization also. So there was one security manager from this Adani organization, and they had an IR situation in their organization, and he was attacked, like it happens in
Yeah.
some organizations over a period of time. So the security manager was attacked by the by some. There was an arson and there was an IR situation, and some workers they attacked him with a an iron rod. Now, I had taught them that whenever you are hit with a rod or something and you are unarmed, you should never try and stop the rod like this, because then you are exposing your two bones, the femur and the ulna, and the radial and the ulna, and they're going to break. So rather than offering your hand like this, you go straight like this into the and don't stop the stick, stop his hand. So what, even if the stick will hurt you, it will not break your bone, you will still be functional, and you would be. And then there were techniques thereafter as to how to disarm. And this gentleman was able to do it. He got 15 stitches here because the hand got cut, got slashed, but it did not break, and he survived. And he was able to disarm the rod, and then he wrote a mail to me. So that is one thing. So I can understand the amount of confidence he must have had, and he wouldn't even have noticed that cut then, I'm sure, during the because of the adrenaline rush. That is situation one which I remember very clearly. Then there is another incident wherein this lady, based out of Chandigarh, I won't name her, based out of Chandigarh, I was training some school teachers and students. And she said that after attending your workshop, I felt so strong and empowered, and I felt that there are a lot of things that we can actually do. So she was part of domestic violence, which she did not discuss there for obvious reasons, because we are not so open, when such things, and you're meeting somebody for the first time for 4 hours, you normally don't. But then we connected, and then she opened up, and then she said, "This is what it is." And then whenever it happened again, I would raise my voice. I would also stop, and then a time came that I took a call against it, and I followed the legal path. And she says, "I feel so good now that I don't have to live in suppression and undergo that trauma." So I think so. There are many success stories like this wherein people have come and told that yes, we have followed. Like for instance, like we have something called CPP, which is we call cap protection protocol, which is like when you're traveling in a cab, how to stay protected. So what I tell people is that if you're traveling alone in a cab, you should always sit behind the driver rather than sitting diagonal to the driver, diagonally behind. Now, how it helps is that one is he's not able to access you. If he has a firearm or he cannot reach you, he has to stop the car. And if he has to stop the car, you have the reaction time to open the door and get out. If you're sitting diagonally, he can hold you, he can grab you, he can threaten you with a firearm or whatever. So sitting behind makes good sense. So a lot of people follow it. And when I go to some organizations, even after years, 3, 4, 5 years, they still remember that we still follow that. Another thing is like traveling in a escalator or in a lift. So I tell them, especially women have a tendency to go right into the inside the lift and stay in one corner and wrap themselves up so they feel in one corner safe and snug. So I tell them you should always stay close to the call buttons, because that's the place which can save your life. You can transmit just in case there is a speaker or an emergency alarm button or something or whatever, and all the buttons are there. Even if you can't see, just press all the buttons. Something will happen. The lift will going to stop somewhere, and somebody might come in, or you may just go out. So these things, people have come back and told that it has given them a sense of confidence and sense of empowerment.
Well, I think that's an excellent thing.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
after you train the people, how do you gauge whether they have become mentally strong or not?
So, sir, it depends on the type of
Is
inter.
there some way of judging, when you started, where was the situation, and after you ended, what is the situation with them?
So, the one very basic indicator is people getting more vocal. So, I call this approach as TSNA, which is think, speak, and act. So, when I start an intervention, people are thinking, मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ था, something like this happened with me. Should I talk about it? The second aspect is when they get a little confident and then they see others speaking, they start speaking. Yes, something like this happened with me. Like we had a campaign, hashtag me too, something like that. So they speak about it. And then the third is the act. Yes, now I have spoken about it. Now tell me, just in case things go wrong, what do I do? How do I act? So it gives us a sense that yes, people now want to know as to what is to be done just in case things go wrong. And mentally, they have reached that level where they become like sponges, where they've started absorbing, the inputs which we are going to give them. And I tell them one thing, see, between you and your attacker or somebody who's there to harm you, there are only two things which will save your life. Only two things: will and skill. If you only have the will and no skill, it is overconfidence. What are you going to do? Do you know who I am? You know who's my father? That's overconfidence because he does not know anything just in case things go wrong or somebody pulls out a gun or a knife. So pure will and no skill is overconfidence. No will and a lot of skill is lack of confidence because you know it but you can't use it. We have to have the right balance. We have to have the will. We have to have the skill. Police, your husband, your father, your brother, your whoever, your bodyguard, anybody else is going to come later. It's only your will and skill. And if you have the will, I'll share the skill. So I create the will in a few hours initially, so that they create that yes, I want to do it, and then I pass on the skill, and then they combine it, and then we practice, and then we demonstrate, and then they practice it, and then they say yes, it works. And been there, done that is the approach which we follow. So that just in case they get into a situation, they're able to do it.
Tell me something. How do people assess for themselves that I'm in danger now, and I need to do something to protect myself?
So,
Where does that feeling come from?
sorry, sir.
Where does that feeling come from, or when does the person realize I am now in danger, and I need to do something to protect myself?
So there are various indicators, there is something called the three-turn rule. So there are various, like in the case of a car following you. If a car is constantly following you and it has followed you for three turns, there is a reason for you to be alert. So there are certain thumb rules which exist, and if you're being stalked and you look at the person and he's staring at you or he looked at you and then he starts looking in another direction, it happens once, twice, thrice, then obviously there is something that this guy is either he's just staring, stalking, or he may be a concern to you. So there are certain telltale signs which one need to be aware of, so we call it situational awareness. So there are yellow, orange, and red flags which should come up. So yellow is moderate. You're walking, somebody is following, and then he takes a turn, goes, okay, over. Orange is he keeps following you for quite some time, and red is you've come to a dead end and the vehicle is still there. Obviously, there is a threat. You're walking inside your car, you're talking on the phone, you know that there is somebody following you, but you ignored. So I tell people never ignore. You can avoid, but don't ignore. You should know what is happening around you. And uh, for most of the people, as you rightly said, they only come to know when attacks happen, which is the worst thing. Which is the worst thing. So one should be careful, and for that, they have to have adequate time to respond. For which I tell them you should always maintain a safe distance. A safe distance is a distance wherein if somebody has to touch you, he has to take a step. Now, for instance, somebody stops you in the road and asks you, "Ma'am, can you tell me this address, please?" And he comes too close, and you start looking at the address. You go from here, there, and you start, helping. I said, don't do that. I'm not saying don't help people. Extend your hand, take the paper, and bring it to the level of his face so that you're looking at him also through the paper. Read it so that you know where he's looking, and he's also under the scanner. And say, okay, okay, you have to go here. Okay, you go this side and you take a left, and then you'll find me. Something like that. So it gives them a sense of understanding. Then I talk to them of something called like from the Indian mythology. I pick up this incident of Sitaji's kidnapping. I think everybody all over the world knows something about the Hindu mythology and Ramayana, and then how this Ram's wife Sita was kidnapped by Ravan. So I asked them, why did Sita get kidnapped? A lot of people come with an answer: because she crossed the line drawn by Lakshman, that Mata or mother, don't cross this line, because if you cross this, you will be in problem. So I said the problem is that people around us, I just draw a parallel. I say I'm not getting into religion, but I'm just drawing a parallel that people around us are drawing lines for us. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't go out after 9. Don't wear this dress. Don't talk to this guy. Don't do that. But they don't tell you, if you have to do this, do this. If you have to go out after 9, use this, wear this, be more comfortable, have people know your location, carry a weapon or a weapon of self-protection which can help you. So rather than curbing independence and telling them not what not to do, we should tell them, do everything what you want to do, but this is how
So
you prep yourself.
this is the protection to what you're doing.
Yes. So, so
One
my
of the
daughter is 20.
people is, when you get into a cab, take the photograph of the
Yes, sir.
cab number and sort of send it to your kith and kin and your friends that I'm traveling from so and so.
Anyone, yes.
This is the cab number that I've sat down in. So you're traceable
Absolutely.
everywhere, and it's a very simple
Absolutely.
thing that if you do, it can help you quite a bit. Tell me something. Would you prefer diffusing an aggression, or you would say, "Okay, all right, fight your way through"?
Say again, sir. Diffusing versus.
You're diffusing versus fighting your way through.
So even if I fight, I'm going to diffuse it only. So the point is, the point is,
Coming up.
so my style of training is like, I'm going home. I'm not troubling you, and I don't want you to trouble me. So once you're prepared, once you know your job, you will have that aura around you that people are not going to trouble you. You will look more prepared, you will look more aware, you will look more, if I can call, more teethed and more armed. Uh, and I think people will think twice before, rather than being very naive and very ignorant on the road. People will take you as a hard target. I say everybody is a target. Everybody, even the president of the most powerful nation of this world is a target, but he's a hard target. So we have to become a hard target. And diffusing a situation, as I said earlier, it depends between fight or flight. So getting out is the best, because in a fight, everybody will get hurt. When I say hurt, it will be some sort of mental trauma. It could be some sort of discomfort. It could be anything. So the best is, all right, you want my watch? Okay, you take it, but don't trouble me. Let me go. But there is no guarantee that after taking my watch, he's not going to stab me, because I have seen his face. So this in India, unfortunately, the crime, or fortunately, the crime, the what should I call it? The intensity of crime is not very high. If you go to a South American country, for that matter, the criminals, they tie their knife with a bandana or a scarf. So even when you're stabbing and you try to disarm, the knife is still in their hand. They can still cut. It's not falling off their hand, which doesn't happen in our country. So the crime is of a very severe rating there. So we have to have different ways of interception and deployment of the techniques. So here, incidentally, it is lower. But in spite of that, we have to understand that we must try and contain the situation first, try and mitigate it as much as possible. If not, then we should. And this mitigation gives you time to prep. For instance, I don't have anything, and there are three, four people who are trying to stop my way. Now, they may ask me for money, and then they may hit me, and they may beat me so much that I may even die. So I should prep also. I give them my money, whatever, but at the same time, I open up my belt and then I prep myself that just in case things go wrong, I can whip them, make a hole in the wall, and get out from there. When I say hole in the wall, it's between the four of them, I make a getaway hole for myself. So I think it all depends on the situation. We should not aim to fight, but we should be prepared to fight.
We generally put all our efforts into training the younger generation, and we don't talk of the elderly who need an equal sense of protection. So, how do
Yes,
you
sir.
go about talking, training, empowering the senior citizens of our country?
Sir, well, initially you had asked this question about self-defense and what is self-defense. So I think I missed out something there. I want to highlight it here now, is because it's connected to this particular question. People consider that self-defense is martial arts, it's karate, taekwondo, and judo, or whatever. That's self-defense. That's not self-defense. That's a fighting technique, yes, but those fighting techniques come with a set of rules. There is a referee. You know who your opponent is. There is a time slot, 3 minutes. Okay, up, stop, you win, gold, silver, whatever. But in a street, you don't know who will break a glass and try and bang you. You go to a bar and you get into a fight. We've seen so many incidents happening day in, day out in Delhi, Gurgaon, in these bars, pubs, and all. And they're not kids there. They're senior citizen people, elders, ladies, people going out. So people have to understand that teaching your children in the school is one thing, that is for agility, but learning basic life skill like self defense is mandatory for every one of you, for who your life is important and for who it's your responsibility, because everybody else is going to come later. So you should be able to hold that situation for 2 minutes at least. If you can hold it for one, for instance, I don't know, not very many people would be aware. There's a very gory incident which happened recently in Surat, I think about 1.5, 2 years ago. So there was this boy and there was this girl, college, young boy and girl, must have been in love or whatever. And unfortunately, men have a tendency of having a greater ego and not taking no, or taking no as an insult. So he takes out a knife and puts on the neck of the girl from behind, and the mother is watching, the brother is watching, and this girl was killed in broad daylight. Nobody could do anything. So that's unfortunate. Only if they knew that, if that girl knew that if a knife cannot move, it cannot cut, and grabbed the hand for maybe 5 seconds, the brother who was standing 10 steps away could have picked up a brick or a stake or just pushed that guy down and saved his sister. So that's how important it is. You may never use it in your life. It's like wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
I may never use it. I may never crash. But what if I crash? So I'm a professional motorcyclist, sir. I zip at very high speed when I do off-roading motorcycle. I'm going for my motorcycle race to the Himalayas on the third, fifth. My race starts 4 days, 560 kilometers of race and off-road terrain in Spiti. Now we wear all the gadgets. We wear the bionic jacket, a helmet. Why? Not that I'm going to crash, but what if I because if I crash, then it's over. It's 100% over. It's like that. So we have to take care. So learning a self-defense system and a reality-based self-defense system, not a sports. Sports will never prepare you for streets. I also have a karate background. I have done my karate black belt, but I will not use it in the streets. It's not supposed to be used in the streets. So I will only use things which will work in the street and I have to think one step ahead of the person who's trying to harm me. I have to be more gruesome than him if I really have to win that fight.
We do as part of our practice, we do a lot of executive protection, and when foreigners come in to India,
Yes,
one of the jobs that we do
yes,
is to brief them as to what they should do and what they should not do, what they should wear, what they should not wear, how how do
yes,
they conduct themselves and how should they not conduct themselves, which are the areas to go to and which are the areas not to go to. So, these are the
yes.
small, small things that, everyone can contribute to in protecting the
Advi-
environment, the situation. And in turn,
yeah,
but Joe, I'm so thankful to you for sparing your time to discuss this very important aspect of self-defense, which I think is a continuous learning process. You can't say that I've
absolutely.
heard it once and therefore I'm trained. You got to sort of keep refreshing your knowledge on a periodic basis, and I think that is the key.
Absolutely, sir.
And
And the crime is graduating every day, sir. Every day we hear of a new shade of crime. The way things are happening now, we have to constantly upgrade ourselves. And over a period of time, the societies have become more nuclear. A lot of senior citizens staying single or alone. Their children have moved out to foreign nations.
yeah,
They're staying alone.
defense colony in Delhi, there, I think,
Yeah.
uh, all the regional owners are in their 90s, or, if they're alive, they're in the 90s today or hundreds today.
Yes, sir.
And,
Yes, sir.
and no child stays with them because they've all moved
Yes.
overseas and they've got families of their own. And the people are just staying alone.
Yes.
It's
So,
scary when you sort of see that.
absolutely. I was watching a video. It was from the United States. There is one YouTube channel which shows real life badge cams, the police badge cams, and the CCTVs installed in stores. So there is this gentleman who stores a departmental store. He's 90 years old. Just because he was alert and he watched on the CCTV that there is a bad-looking guy who parks his truck and tries to get inside his shop. His shoplifter gets inside with a assault rifle, but before he could do something, he pulls out his gun and knocks him away. And that doesn't kill him, but shoots at him and he runs out. So I think at every age it is important. Somebody who has not done something at the age of 20, let us say, how will he be able to do that at the age of 70, 80? He will not be able to do it. So it has to be, and if unfortunately, if it has not been done, still it is not late. We can try. We can learn certain small, tricks and tips, and we must follow. And I think life will become a little more safer and better.
And the right to self-defense is a fundamental
Absolutely, it is.
principle in India, and
Yes,
affording citizens the authority to protect themselves and others from immediate harm or danger. That is something that is fundamental to us. And understanding the nuances of this right and its legal implications is crucial for making well-informed decisions in situations involving self-defense. And Joe, I'd like to thank you for your time. I think it's
most
been a
welcome, sir.
wonderful discussion. And for the audience, if you like what we have discussed, please press the bell icon so that we can get some more hits from you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joe.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, sir. Thanks for inviting me, sir. Thanks for this opportunity. Have a good day, sir. Bye bye.